Hey guys, Bowie here, and today we're going to talk about how Topson fights with Drow Ranger. We're going to start with one of my favorite plays I've seen recently. Topson is pushing bottom, and then by using one of his Manta illusions, intentionally, since he has vision of this high ground, he pretends he was a Drow Ranger split pushing and is just going to farm the high ground. Since the lane is pushed, this is obviously gonna lure cores to deal with that wave, and because he intentionally shows the illusion, Lina thinks he can get a kill. And by wasting the LSA from Lina, he grabs the kill. Even though he gets punished by a Doom nearby, not only his ult gets committed, but he also gets denied by his Leshrac that was nearby. This is a textbook play, acquiring a kill with the wave pushed, forcing ults from the enemy team on their side of the map so they cannot rosh or get a tower after Topson dies. This fight is more of a showing that Drums is incredible on Drow than anything, but watch it. Oracle shows up mid and Topson solo kills him. With silence on cooldown though, Shadowfiend tries to engage as the drums get delivered. Rather than popping it instantly, knowing he is 2 levels ahead of the SF, he baits him. He keeps popping the frost arrows to make sure he will not eat another raise, and once Shadowfiend disengages, he then uses his drums to keep kiting him. He also doesn't panic Gust once the cooldown gets back up. He knows that the raise cooldown is 10 seconds, and because he was patient, Spectre ends up haunting in and then gets silenced, so there is no dagger to slow him and deal more damage. He kills the Shadowfiend, he later uses frost arrows to slow the Spectre down, and as the silence is wearing off, he thread switches to strength, again to mitigate some of the incoming damage, to instantly thread switch to intelligence, killing Spectre and crushing Dire completely. This engagement starts with Topson dead. Even though he's dead though, Radiant has vision of Wind Ranger showing bottom and Tiny being pretty far away. This is the type of move that will never work unless Legion duels Disruptor, since he would be able to glimpse Topson back and he has no BKB. What I really like about this fight is the fact that he did not use drums during most of it. During this game, he usually used drums to kite trolls out, but in this case, he uses drums alongside multi-shot to follow up after the first kills. Drow players very often think of multi-shot as only a damage ability, but the fact that the slow lasts for almost 4 seconds and he has so much cast range when you have Dragonlance is a great way to catch up to fleeing targets. He only uses it once and they get on top of him. Unless he was closer to throw, it's really hard to silence him before he pops his ult, because these players are very good at identifying the animations of every spell. But the cool part of this fight is the fact that he stands his ground against the ulted troll. While Drow's ult pierces evasion, the ability gets turned off when Wind Ranger is this close to Topson, so he thread switches to strength to withstand the damage, and since he waits, he can kill Wind Ranger after the evasion is gone, and that is a beautiful 5-1 for Radiant. This fight is more about decision making than anything, and for us to understand it, we have to go back just a little bit and see this skirmish. Topson kinda initiates on Radiant, and with Wind Ranger engaging really deep, they panic pop Egg and Exorcism. Even then, that's 3 kills for them, and they decide to capitalize those kills with a mid tier 1 tower. By positioning aggressive after he realizes Radiant used Rocket in another area, they get a Clockwork kill with a pretty small respawn timer. But watch what Topson does. He asks his team to Roshan. Dire is not that far ahead in terms of gold. Their draft with these items doesn't even rosh that well or fast, but with Clockwork dead and no Egg or Exorcism, they can rosh, albeit it takes a while. But the real goal here is to force a bad fight as they rosh. Radiant obviously gets around trying to stop it, but since they have no cooldowns and the supports were smart enough to ward the high ground, Topson can take the fight. This is often a strategy employed in high MMR pubs, just using Roshan as a bait for a fight when the enemy has no ults. Once someone shows up, Topson walks over, and he is not afraid of anything. Even if he gets hookshotted here, which he was really close from being, there's just no follow-up because of the lack of Egg and Exorcism. With more heroes dead, and the fact they started roshing just a while ago, they can go back and finish it. Drow Ranger works especially well in fights. She is not the first one to show. While that clip from Topson was possible because he destroyed the Shadowfiend in the lane, more often than not, great fights on Drow look more like this, responding to an already ongoing fight with spells on cooldown. Here, he knows Icarus Dive was used, so he doesn't bother using multi-shot from Fog. Those heroes should be all dead, and the only way they're gonna run away is if he misses the multi-shot. All he needs right now is vision. Eventually, when he felt like they could separate, he pops the E. And notice how when Doom re-engages, he refrains from killing Phoenix, knowing Icarus Dive is still on cooldown, to make sure he can kill Doom for trying to scare him by slowing him as well. He even baits Doom after that kill, knowing Clock is coming. The Lina kill attempt here might look like an overextension, but after Laguna was spent, there is no way Topson can die, and by continuing the fight, he forces another core to TP to his lane. As that happens, he's backpacking a salve, now knowing Rupture was already spent, to wrap around the Lina that kept showing hitting creeps. But he also doesn't dive the tower, he hides in the path he expects her to take, since the Bloodseeker was farming the large camp on the Dire side. Generally speaking, what is really impressive about Topson is how he tries to squeeze the smallest advantages. Whenever you think a fight is over and enough was acquired, you see him trying to extract a little more. Take this high ground attempt from Dire. He engaged on the Death Prophet, he gets hookshotted, which is fine since his Hurricane Pike was up, but the overall problem with this fight was that Juggernaut, for whatever reason, never joined them, and so going high ground is not possible. The average pub player would probably just flame his Juggernaut and farm Radiant's jungle, for instance, but not Topson. Hookshot is on cooldown, Phoenix and DP are dead, and so he hides with Shadowblade, and once the duration is over, he stands behind this tree knowing he has True Sight and a ward there. Hookshot actually gets back during that, but he had Hurricane Pike anyways, and he's able to just disengage. In this other game, Dire was rushing, and while Pudge dies in the process, not only Topson's team is behind in net worth, this was Aegis plus cheese for the enemy. He scouts the pit with multi-shot and eventually, he gets initiated. Note that he doesn't panic Gust, he waits until Tro is in range for that, and while that happens, he gets tossed and hides in the high ground. A scared player would, I don't know, TP base, or maybe would push mid to cut the wave and TP base. Topson takes the fight, knowing there is no Static Storm anymore and no Glimmer Cape on Disruptor. Because he draws Dire's attention, Tiny doesn't help Tro in the fight, meaning the Aegis gets taken out. Yeah, Topson died here, but if they don't take that fight, Dire would just wait for Pudge respawn and push with Aegis, which could be game losing for Radiant. Also, if Topson just runs after the Hurricane Pike to the high ground, his team gets wiped and Dire just waits their respawn timers to do the same thing. Measuring whether living is more important than taking a fight is something that can take thousands of pubs to learn, and Topson is a great example of that.
Какой-то фигу фидишь. Cancel, блядь! Cancel! Cancel!
Blaming allies can be addicting, but while it can feel good to do that sometimes, it will never change your win rate, and in fact, it can decrease your behavior score and chances of winning. You know what can positively impact your games? Knowing what are the best heroes of the patch and when to pick them, as well as how they work. Right now, you can get access to my weekly updated S-tier hero list as a Patreon follower or via YouTube membership. Be aware that YouTube takes a huge cut from that, and that's why the prices are different on Patreon, but I do like to give you guys the choice. On top of the S-tier hero list, you also get a weekly video talking about new trends I identified and didn't finish a video yet. All you have to do is join the Meta Aficionado tier on either YouTube or Patreon. I also constantly share replay IDs I think are useful for you to improve as a player. Remember that making these videos takes a lot of time, and in case you cannot afford one of these subscriptions, helping the YouTube algorithm by liking, subscribing, ringing the bell and commenting also makes the channel grow. Guys, thank you a lot for watching this video. In case you want a different experience than my Meta Aficionado tier, you can DM me on Twitter to get the rates for my coaching. If you want to see me play or cast Dota 2, follow me on Twitch. If you got back to Dota because of COVID-19 or the Compendium, you should definitely check our Discord channel. There's a lot of cool people there, and in case you struggle playing Dota by yourself, you can find people from all over the world to help you grow. Finally, if you still want to help with the channel, but the Meta Aficionado tier is not something that you really like, you can check the other tiers on either Patreon or YouTube. Thank you a lot for watching, guys. Have a good one and bye.